Hi everyone, this is Erin from Sandpaper Road in the USA, and today I'm here to share with you a home decor creation I made using the Vintage Treasure paper collection by Craft a Clock. This is a beautiful paper collection. I love it so much. And this is essentially just a scrapbook layout that I put in a nice shadow box frame. Now I'm using the 20 and 3 centimeter by 20 and 3 centimeter. That's an 8-inch by 8-inch square frame because that's what I had on hand. So I'm using the same size paper collection. Now I believe that in Poland you can get the 15 and 2/4 centimeter square or 6 by 6 inch frame. And so in that case you would use the 6 by 6 inch paper collection. And I have a picture on the screen where you can pick that up. But first, let me walk you through the paper collection that I'm using today. I'm using this medium-sized paper collection just because that's the size of the frame I had on hand. They give you 3 of each design, and they're double-sided. They're so beautiful. I love them so much. Look at that. Lots of great designs. This is perfect for your mini album, or your framed art, your scrapbook layouts, cards, mixed media projects. So beautiful. Got a really nice vintage feel to it. Coordinates beautifully with a lot of the other paper collections as well. Let me show you just a little bit quickly the smaller paper collection, especially because these letters I used actually on my project. So they're inside the small paper collection, the 6 by 6 paper collection. 3 of each design again. You get 18 sheets plus some extras on the front and the back. I'm sorry, on the back of the packaging. It's so nice. I love the color palette. These are some extras that aren't offered in the medium-sized pack. I'm also going to use some of the extras to cut. This is from the F15 extras to cut. It coordinates with the Vintage Treasure paper collection. Now, if you don't have a frame, you could use a piece of wood, or you could use a canvas, or even some cardboard if you wanted to, and then you could frame your creation later on. It's just whatever you have on hand. This is the frame that I already had on hand. So to start, I'm going to choose a piece for my base. And a few pieces for some contrast. They're all so pretty. So the hardest part of the project is choosing which papers I want to use. Now I'm also using an image from the Vintage Photo Set 2. But you could use a photo of your own, an ancestry photo, or any photo you wanted. Now I chose to tear that paper because I really wanted those flowers to be on either side of the picture. I just thought that created a beautiful little frame. So I'm just using some washi tape. And now I'll just pretend that it's one solid piece and tear it to fit. I'm distressing the edges of the vintage photo with my scissors. And I am going to use a piece of this cardboard just to give some dimension to the photo. The paper is already embellished so beautifully, you don't need a lot of extras, but you could put as many extra flowers or butterflies or embellishments or string, or you could make this as decorative or simple as you like. I'm going to show you a simple approach today, and then if you like your projects more decorative, you could add to that. This is easy enough for even a beginner. I'm tearing the paper toward me so that it reveals the white core of the paper inside. And I keep just using trial and error, trying different things, adjusting the paper, trying it again until I like the look. You'll notice that I'm not gluing anything down yet. I don't have measurements for these cuts, only because I'm just estimating. I'm distressing the edges of the paper with the scissors again. You could add some ink to the edges of that if you wanted. At first I thought I would mount the photo on top of the purple, but I really like the purple underneath that torn piece. So instead I'll mount the photo on some white cardstock. That looks really good. It almost looks finished already. The paper makes these projects so easy. Now here are some of the pieces from the junk journal set. I did not show that in the beginning, but it coordinates with the paper collection. And here are the letters that I had showed you earlier. They come from the 6x6, the small paper collection. Notice how I tear the paper toward me, and that reveals that white core inside. That looks really good. Now I've got some distress ink. You could use whatever ink you have on hand. Archival ink is fine. Distress ink is fine. And just using some scrap cardboard underneath, I'll ink around the outside edges. And just gently fold up the sides. I like the contrast between the straight lines of some of the cuts and against the photo and the torn paper edges. I really like that. But you'll notice that I stayed consistent with the vertical up and down look and feel of the project. You don't see a lot of horizontal assembly here. Now with this, I'm spritzing with a little bit of water just to help fold the edges a little bit easier. And giving it a little bit of a worn look. Adding a little ink as well. And when the paper and the ink dry, it won't have a nice vintage feel. It looks great. I'll do the same thing here with the purple paper. Just a little bit of water and crumple it up, add a little bit of ink, and the ink will bring out those creases, making it look a little bit worn. It's a really nice touch to your vintage projects. This was probably the easiest project I've ever done. It was so simple, it hardly took any time at all. I'm using a quote from this is the Catch a Moment Quotes 3. I'm also using a few of the butterflies. And now it's just a matter of putting everything together. A little bit of liquid glue on some of the parts, a little bit of double-sided tape on the other parts. This is why I didn't glue anything down until the very end. On some of the parts that I crinkled up or used a lot of ink or some water, if it's still damp, I find that using a liquid adhesive works a little bit better, because then you've got everything drying at the same time. I'm using the Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive glue by Tonic. It's one of my favorites. I love it. This paper is so pretty. As I was working, I kept thinking of all the different projects I could make. Mini albums, cards, scrapbook layouts, exploding boxes. Here I'm going to use a little bit more scrap cardboard just to mount up the quote. Of course, the quotes come with English on one side and Polish on the other. Super, super easy. You just can't mess this up. That's one of the things I like about using vintage paper and doing vintage looking projects. That rustic antique feel is a good cover up for a lot of mistakes. I'm using some acrylic blocks just to rest on top of the things that I've used wet glue on. It just helps to hold it down while the glue dries and sets just a little bit. You can't see all of them in the camera shot, but there's many, many butterflies, flowers, and extras to cut. This comes from the sheet of extras to cut and also from the junk journal extras to cut set that coordinates with the paper collection. There will be links in the description box where you can check out all of these things. If you live in the USA, you can purchase this paper collection at the shop, at the Sandpaper Road shop on Etsy. If you live in Poland or elsewhere, you can follow the links below to your designated area. Just a few of the butterflies. I like to work in groups of 3, but I just couldn't make anything fit in that upper right corner. But then I found a little tag, and that seemed to work really well. I liked that it brought out the stripes that I was using on the paper, and it kept the vertical feel of the layout. That was just what it needed. Just a little something in the upper right corner. I used a little piece of double-sided foam tape for the flowers on the upper left corner. And a little bit of hot glue for those tricky areas on the flowers. That looks perfect. Just a bit more of the foam tape for one side of the butterfly because it will hang off the edge of the picture. And probably best for this butterfly to just use regular liquid glue. And that is it. It looks great. Now for a final touch, I decided to use some white and black acrylic paint. And I'm just going to cover up the picture and some of the embellishments with some scrap paper. I'll put some acrylic paint on top of my clear block, add a little bit of water, and then I just tap gently and create the spatter. Sometimes the spatter gets everywhere except where you want it to go. But I always think that the paint spatter adds a nice finishing touch to the project. Using an acrylic block for the paint makes life really easy. Because then I can just use a baby wipe or a towel just to wipe up the paint and use the next color. The acrylic paint dries fairly quickly, and I'll take the scrap paper off of my project. It looks great. I really like the look of that. And once the paint dries, the last step is just to add it to the frame. And here's a final look of it inside the frame. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check the links below, and we'll see you in the next video.